Hey guys, welcome back to Less Trauma Bond podcast. You guys, this is episode 4. Oh my gosh. So if you've seen the other episodes of Less Trauma Bond podcast, you understand the concept, you understand what it's meant for, but I'm going to just explain it to the new people. But Less Trauma Bond podcast is all about talking about topics, especially hard topics, and talking about how they relate back to trauma, personal experience, being very vulnerable, because I feel like the key to success is vulnerability. The key to helping others and being inspirational is being vulnerable. No one likes to talk to a rock, okay? No one likes to look up to people that they think are completely perfect, like nothing in their life you can relate to. So that's what I'm here for, you guys, is to be vulnerable, to tell my story, because growing up, you guys, I used to be always perfect. Like, no one knew what was going on in my life. I never told anyone anything. So now it's time to talk about it, okay? Let's trauma bond, okay? Period. So y'all, the topic today is I don't trust black men, and I am scared of black men. Let's talk about it, because when y'all see this topic, y'all be like, you scared of black men? You don't trust black men? Are you racist? Y'all also tell me in the comments, y'all, because it's going to get real controversial. But do you think black people can be racist, okay, by the definition of racism? Let me know in the comments what y'all thoughts is. I'm not going to get into all of it. But what I'm actually here to talk about is, what do I mean by that? What do I mean about being scared of black men and not being able to trust black men in general? And I think a lot of black women will actually be able to relate to this. Maybe some white women too. They're not going to probably want to say it. But I'm here to say it, y'all. I'm here to talk about it. Let's talk about it. And let's clear the air, you guys. I mostly date black men, okay? I've actually, not mostly. That's all I've ever, like, been in a relationship with. I have been on dates with white men, but I've only been in relationships with black men. Okay, so y'all, I'm going to talk about actual trust issues in general, or when it comes to black men. First, I want to talk about where it stems from, okay, y'all? Because I don't trust black men. And let's be honest, it's really black men, because I could say, oh, I don't trust white men, but I never really had to be put in a predicament of like not trusting a white man, because like I said, I've only been on dates with white men. I've only been on a couple dates with them. I've never tried to build a relationship with them. But even on those dates, it didn't seem like I didn't trust them. But what I will say is it really stems from the trust issues my father created for me, and the fact that growing up my father was very inconsistent. I've talked about this in several videos, but my father would call me sometimes. We lived in 2 different states. He lived in New York, I lived in Minnesota or North Carolina. So he would call me sometimes, and then sometimes he wouldn't call me at all. I would visit him, but it wasn't like, it was often, I would say like at least once a year, but it wasn't like I was with him every few months or every single break I had, I was with him. So it's very inconsistent when it comes to spending time with each other. It was very inconsistent when it came to communication. It was very inconsistent when it came to promises he made. So he will say, hey, I'm going to buy you this for your birthday, and then it would never come. Hey, I'm going to send you $100, and I would never get it. So I could never rely on him, and he's a black man. So this is going to play a part on why a lot of black women can't trust black men. Why a lot of black women are scared of black men. But we continue to be with them. So let's keep talking about it. But on a simple fact, he was not reliable. So I could never trust him. Could never trust what he said. Could never trust what he said he was going to do. So it made me really grow up not being able to put my trust in people in general, because of a black man. And let's also talk about him being very verbally abusive. I just started to deal with understanding that my dad was verbally abusive. I didn't know how to put it, because I never ever heard of anyone else experiencing that before. But my dad was very aggressive when it came to when he talked to, yeah, pretty much the way he talked was always aggressive, and it was always an issue. He's very controlling. So he would always yell at me. And so that's another reason why I am scared of black men. which we're gonna get into the more technicalities of that, what I mean by being scared of them. But he would literally yell at me if I wanted to go upstairs and watch TV, right, and separate myself from him. Not because I was upset, just like because I just literally want to go watch TV. He would be yelling at me literally, why are you going upstairs? And why are you watching a dumb box? Like, you need to come down. You need to talk to your family. You need to da-da-da-da. Like, it was an issue. Like, everything was an issue with him. So I had to walk on eggshells. And that plays a big part on my way of life and how I act with men in general. Like, it's very hard for me to communicate with men, especially when it's a heated argument or when things are not going right, because I'm so used to being around my father where it was like he always raised his voice at me. I could never talk because obviously when you're raised in a black family, you cannot talk back to your parents. Like, if they say to do this, just do it or you can get your ass whooped. Okay, like, there's no like, oh, let's negotiate this. No. So when he would yell at me, I would literally shut down and just cry. I would just shut down and cry and say nothing. It became like I became like a brick wall almost. And a lot of times I would just leave. So I would just call my mom crying like, hey, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And so he taught me as a black man, he kind of taught me not to trust black men because he was very inconsistent. He taught me to be scared of black men because he was always raising his voice at me in a very aggressive tone. And he also taught me to run away from situations when dealing with black men because I could never voice my opinions. I always left instead of trying to communicate. So that's a big factor on why I don't trust black men and why I'm scared of black men. And honestly, the people that hurt me the most in my life have been black men. And I am sure most black women can relate to this, that black men have been the source of a lot of their pain. And that's messed up. It's really messed up. I understand why. And that's something we have to talk about. Like, we understand why, because black men are the most oppressed. We're oppressed as black women, but black men are even more oppressed because of the stigma, because of the systematic oppression, the fact that, like, systematically they are not in better places, so they tend to become criminals. They tend to be in the wrong spaces because that's systemically made, like, by white people for black men to not succeed. Like, there is a whole system on why black men are this way. But if you talk to black women, we understand that we are scared of black men and we don't trust black men. We are with black men because that is what we grew up seeing. That is what we grew up around. That is what we're used to. That is, we want black love. We want that. We want a strong black relationship. But when you look at statistically, which I don't have the statistics, so I'm not gonna lie to y'all, but if you look at it, a lot of successful black men are usually with white women or other races. A lot of successful black women are usually with white men or other races. So you have to start to understand that, truthfully, it's a systematic issue. It is a systematic issue, and a lot of times we are petrified of our own kind. We literally are the most non-collaborative culture there is. Like, literally, if you see how black people are not great at collaborating with other black people, like, I finally got to a point in my life where I surround myself, before, y'all, I always surround myself with black people. I don't know, like, that's just who I vibe with. That is who I am very, I can relate to. Y'all, I do have white friends. Yes, you guys, I have went on dates with white men. But when it comes to, like, my close circle, they're all black people. And I just started being able to find events where there's mostly black people. Y'all, I live in Minnesota, so there's a lot of white people in Minnesota. So, like, finding those spaces where you can actually find people that look like you, that also are doing the same things as you, because a lot of times growing up in certain neighborhoods, certain places, it's like once you get to a certain level, like, okay, your career is taking off, you're more driven, you're focused, you're, you know, whatever. You're not the typical person that would come out of that hood that you grew up in. You lose connections with those type of people because they're not like you. So trying to find other black people that are educated, other black people that are, you know, want to see other black people succeed, because it's always this competition within the black community of like, who's going to be the best, who's going to get the best job, because a lot of times it's only room for one of us. So systematically, it's because the black community is very broken. It is very broken. And hopefully one day we can really take our power back. We are very powerful, but we have to take our power back. And we're getting there. I see a lot of times we are starting these businesses finally. We are starting these groups. We are starting this healing. We are starting to get there. But what we want to talk about is the black man. Okay, we're going to get back to the black man, because the black man is a lot of the source of the black woman's pain. It's actually a lot of the source of the angry black woman. But they try to claim, a lot of black men will claim that black women are angry, or they're hard to please, or they are hard to deal with. And we have to understand it stems from the black man. Okay, the black man has put us through hell. And all we know is how to be strong. All we know is how to take care of ourselves, because a lot of black women and black men didn't have fathers around. They didn't have a person where they can really depend on to lead, especially in a male figure to lead. So as a woman, we've always seen our mothers lead. We always seen our mothers work multiple jobs. And so we try to take that power. You know what I mean? We try to be masculine because that's all we know, because of the black man. But let's get into this. All right, y'all. So that kind of breaks down kind of the trust issue in general, just like not being able to trust black men, because my father's situation, and a lot of people had difficult father situations growing up black, is pretty much an everyday occurrence, and that messes up your trust issues. So the next thing I would say, violence in the black community. And just violence being majority black men. And this is not to bring black men down. This is for black men to understand the black woman, to understand why black women are difficult, right? To understand why black women don't trust them, right? Because a lot of black women have a lot of trust issues. Not saying that other races don't, because there's a lot of women with trust issues. And a lot of those trust issues from some women stem from being cheated on or something like that. But I think in the black community, a lot of the trust issues start within the home, within the black male figures in their life. Point blank and period. Without just the cheating aspects of being cheated on, but from the root of whatever black man has been in their life. Okay, y'all? So we're going to talk about that, just like the violence in the black community. A big thing, just seeing, if you grew up in the hood, if you ever been in the hood, y'all, because like I didn't live my whole life in the hood, okay, but I've had a lot of moments in the hood. I have family that's from the hood, and I see how they get down. I see how they act. And honestly, if you look on TV, okay, if you look on TV, a lot of the criminals are black. Let's be honest, which is very sad. We understand why, because they are systematically oppressed. They get less jobs. They have less education, because a lot of times they did grow up in the hood. Their moms had to work so much that they couldn't instill like, hey, you need an education. Maybe they couldn't even afford to get the education. So the best way they know is to go out and do illegal things, obviously for money, and that turns into other things, or they just in a certain environment where they have to shape themselves to that environment, if that makes sense. Okay, they have to shape themselves to that environment so they become a certain person, or the dynamic of their family is not good, so they become a certain person. Everything comes from childhood trauma. So someone's not just bad, it's certain situations that make them a bad person, if that makes sense. And nobody's truly a bad person. Everybody has something good within them. They just had bad circumstances. They didn't know how to deal with it. And so when we watch the news and we see somebody get robbed, you see somebody get killed, most of the time it's a black man. Let's be honest. Now we do see a lot of white serial killers. We see a lot of white people shooting up schools and killing their wives and their families. Like, we see that type of dynamic where it's like, you're really messed up in the head and you're probably mentally unstable. And you don't care about nobody, okay? But in the black community, we see more like it's survival. It's survival why they're killing, why they're hurting, why they're doing things, because they need the money, because they got themselves in a bad situation and something happened gang related because they had to get what they needed to get. A lot of times they're robbing people, yeah, because they don't have it. This is the only way they know to get it. When it comes to domestic violence, a lot of times it's because they seen their fathers or stepfathers or whatever do that in their home, or they seen their mom be domestic. Like, the only way they knew how to get their anger out is to hit, right? And that's another thing in our community we got to learn better about, because that is also a systematic thing. Because as slaves, what were we? Whipped, beaten, hurt. So we feel like, and that was to get us in line, right, to follow the rules. So that's kind of what we do when we decide to whoop our kids, when we decide to get angry and say first thing we're gonna do is hit. So it's a systematic thing. There's a reason why we're this way, but this is the reason why I'm scared of black men. Let's be honest. When you walk down the street, even me, if I walk down the street and I see a black man and he look a little scared, he could be a black man with just like a black hoodie, right? I'm gonna be more sketched, like, okay, let me keep my head on the swivel, because I know in the hood, you got to keep your head in the swivel all the time. You cannot be slacking. You can't just have your purse just laying around. You can't leave your purse in a car. You can't walk around just like willy-nilly. You got to have something with you. So when you grow up in that environment, when you see those type of people in those environments, you are looking for those type of people. I'm not looking for a white man. When I'm going somewhere and I see a white man with a black hoodie and he look a little sketchy, like, I'm not thinking, okay, he gonna rob me, you know, he gonna shoot me. This sounds so bad, but let's be real. Seeing the way that people handle things is through violence, because of the systematic things that we've been through as a black community. And even me growing up, having like a stepfather, I just say stepfather, he was never married to my mother, but he was with my mother for, I feel like he had to be with my mother for like 15 years. 15 years-ish, maybe more than that. They were together for a long time. Practically, he always lived with us. And he was an alcoholic. He was a real bad alcoholic. He was a black man. Okay, y'all. And this, I'm not saying that this does not happen in white homes. I know there's a lot of white people that have alcoholic mothers, alcoholic fathers. Don't get me wrong. But this whole podcast episode is to explain why black women are scared of black men. Why black women have trust issues, and why there is this stigma of the angry black woman. Okay? So anyways, y'all. So with him, he was an alcoholic. He would drink all day long, all night, smell like alcohol. He would run into things. He was a sloppy drunk. He was a very sloppy drunk, and it kind of caused me a lot of fear, because I never knew what to expect with him. He was very nice to me, you know, but he was just very sloppy. I never knew what to expect from him, which is another part of just inconsistencies in my life and not being able to trust black men. Also, he was very violent when he got drunk, and mostly violent with my mother when he got drunk. And it was a lot of times those things happen behind closed doors. So the only reason why I would know that it happened is I hear my mom scream, and then she's crying, and she's telling me that, oh, he like punched her in the face, or he slapped her in the face. And back then I didn't know what to do. I was literally probably 10 years old when this was happening. So I didn't know what to do, and I was told to not call the police. That's a whole nother story about being petrified to call the police. Even to this day, like, I just avoid calling the police, and that's a really bad habit to have. So anyways, y'all, it made me not trust black men. It made me think black men were violent. Let's be honest. And I want y'all to be real with yourselves. If y'all walking, let's say even in the hood, if y'all in the hood, right, and a black man is walking behind you, are you going to be more scared if a black man is walking behind you, or are you going to be more scared if a white man is walking behind you? Most people are going to say they're going to be more scared because a black man is walking behind them. And the reason why is because that's all we knew. That's all we knew was fear within a black man, not fear within a white man, because we don't interact with white men. We don't live with white men. We didn't grow up in neighborhoods where it was mostly white men. So maybe if we had dealt with a white man that was very aggressive, we might feel the same. Or maybe if we dealt with a white man that was an alcoholic, or maybe if we dealt with being robbed by a white man. But a lot of these are black on black crimes, right? And that is why we're so biased in the black community. It is an unconscious bias to be scared because we've been hurt by our own people. And kind of even going back to that too, it's like also being nervous because when I was younger, I was sexually assaulted by my cousin. Won't say any names, but you know, by my cousin, and I was very young, and he was a black man. So it already instilled something in me at a young age to be nervous around a black man. Y'all, I still get nervous. And this is me just being honest. Like, I literally am in relationships with black men. Like, literally, my ex is a black man. Every man I've been with is a black man. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Like, okay? But if I'm just around just a random black man, I get anxious. I also have a problem with looking at men in their eyes, especially black men. I know where it stems from, obviously, all this trauma. But I didn't really understand it. Because I'm like, okay, if I walk down the hall and I see a white man, I can look up and smile. That sounds crazy. But when I go and I'm somewhere and I see a black man, I avoid eye contact by any means necessary. There's a couple reasons. A, I was sexually assaulted by a black man. Black men have made me not trust them. Like, black men have committed domestic violence on my family members. So there's a lot of reasons behind it, but there's also a reason of black men and black women are not usually friendly with each other. Unless they like each other. Unless you want to go on a date or something. But if you notice, if you're going somewhere and there's a random black man, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to say, hey, like, how was your day going? Or, like, hey. Or, have a great day when you leave out the elevator. Most likely, he's not going to say a word to you. He's literally going to not say a word to you unless he kind of likes you some way or he wants to start a conversation. A white man, a lot of times you go down the hallway and he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Or you get in the elevator like, oh, what floor are you going to? Okay, have a great day. Like, we don't do that in the black community. We stay to ourselves, we be quiet. When we look at people in the eyes, it can be intimidating sometimes. When you raise in the hood, you don't stare at people because people are like, what the fuck you staring at? The fuck? Like, so it's also a subconscious thing of like, you don't really look people in the black community in the eye when you're from the hood. You don't stare at people. You don't, because you stare, they're gonna wonder what the fuck you're looking at. So that also plays a part in it, you guys, and it's something I am trying to cope with and understand because I love black men. I kept seeing myself being in black love. And wanting to love these black men and want to understand these black men. Now, the thing about me, I am starting to now rethink my mindset because I was so pro black love. I like so pro black love. Like I never see no other way. But I am now finally opening my eyes that I do need to experience other races as well when I am dating, especially at the level that I am and the level I want to be. I need to expand my options because if you think about it, I was watching this TikTok video, which was from a black lady on TikTok that says statistically most men that are educated, like highly educated, are not black. And then the black men that are educated, let's say, you know, they have degrees and all these things and great careers, they're usually with white women. So what does that leave for the educated black women? The black men that don't have anything going for themselves. So that is where we have to be open and not write off every single person because they're not black. And so that is a thing that I am working on, because I usually intentionally like do not date outside of my race, because I'm like, oh, you know, this is what I'm used to. This is culturally, like, they understand me. Like, this is what I like. This is what I've seen my whole life. But now I'm opening my mind a little bit more to like different options, because if I keep dating the same type of people, how do I think different results are going to happen? And I'm not saying that and I hope this video don't ever come off like I'm saying black men are bad, because like all black men are not bad. But this is my experience with multiple black men, and this is why I will title this that I'm scared of black men. I don't trust black men. And a lot of black women will be able to understand this. If you don't understand this, it ain't meant for you to understand. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. But that kind of sums that up. Let me know in the comments if you ever felt this way, if you get where I'm coming from. Because ultimately, this is not a black man problem. This is a systematic problem, right? This is a systematic problem because they, first of all, who gets more opportunity when it comes to job, when it comes to career, when it comes to education? White men, right? So how can a black man constantly grow and constantly be successful when he's fighting against the stigma? Like, just like this. These are all, this is all stereotypes. This is all stereotypes. And I've met all these stereotypes in real life, y'all. So it exists. But these are all stereotypes. So when a person hears about this on the news, okay, a black person shot at shot somebody, or the black person robbed somebody. When they hear all these stories on the internet, a white person is also going to be biased, and then that is going to obviously cause people to, you know, not want to offer these options for black men or black women. It's even black women that don't get opportunities. So anyways, y'all, but it is a systematic thing, because why are they out there doing it? Because A, they probably came from broken homes, poverty, in the hood. In the hood, all you see is killing, shooting, killing, raping, domestic violence. This is all in the hood. This is all in low income neighborhoods, okay? What do people of color typically live? In low income neighborhoods. Why? Because they're typically not given the opportunity to have good jobs, a good education, or they didn't come from that. So for all that to be said, it's not the black man's fault. But this is why black women are so angry. This is why black women are so strong and so-called not submissive. This is why. But yeah, that is my TED Talk. I thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. I'll see you guys in the next episode.